Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of The Rundown. It's a pleasure to be here with you from the East Coast. My name is Mike Borski, and I will be your host for today's program, but I don't do the show by myself.
No, you do not, sir. My name is Craig DeLuz, and I am coming at you from the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras in California. And I will be your co-host today, co-pilot, your taco sous chef, shall we say?
The taco sous chef, yes. You know what sous stands for in French, or sous means in French?
No.
Under. So you'd be the under chef. So
okay, well you're leading the way today, bruh. So that would be an appropriate analogy.
That's it. There you go. Well, it's under. It means like the boss chef, and then the chef underneath the boss chef. So it's not meant as a bad thing. It's just a description of what sous chef means. That's all.
So what kind of tacos you got planned for today?
Woo! Street tacos, baby. I know exactly where I'm going. Tacos El Norino. I know exactly where I'm going, when I'm going to be there. I'm going to get some and take them home and bring them home for dinner.
Oh, I do believe I will be having some shrimp tacos today.
Shrimp tacos.
Shrimp tacos. Had some really good shrimp last week, and I said, we need to try this on tacos.
Is that do you guys do whole shrimp or you dice them up?
Oh, whole shrimp. So you got
really?
You got to take the tail off. Yeah, but yeah, no, it'll be.
See, I mean, I like that, but I think you get a better spread of shrimp if you dice them. Just like little half-inch squares.
We're going to use the mini shrimp. We're not doing the big jumbo.
Oh, shrimp. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, we don't have mini shrimp in Florida. That's just you got shrimp. That's what you get. You also have you got popcorn shrimp. You got baked.
But isn't like jumbo shrimp? Isn't that like an oxymoron?
You got jumbo. Those are prawns. So we figured out a way to get around that. Yeah, we don't have jumbo shrimp here. We figured out that we call them prawns. So.
Okay. Well, I always thought they were two different things.
Well, they could be, but in Florida, we figured out a way to get around it. So it's what we do for most things here in Florida.
That's definitely what you guys do in Florida.
Oh boy! Hey, let's speaking of Florida, let's jump into a story number one today, shall we? Now, Craig, I want to do something we don't normally do. Normally, you and I we've looked at articles, we've formed our conclusions, we've taken the facts, and we relay those to the customer. The customer to you, the viewer, in our typical dialoguing style method. But this story from CNN, I took a look at yesterday, is so full of lies that I wanted to kind of go through this story a little bit with you, the viewer, and with you, Craig, as well, just to point out. So where you normally wouldn't hear us reading except for a small quote, this story we're going to kind of follow for a minute if you'll hang in with us there for a minute. So this story, title is after 169 hospitals, a dad finally got the COVID-19 care he needed and changed dozens of skeptics' minds. Well, Craig, this story is what I call after 169 lies, because as you go through this story, you start to see how CNN no longer has any journalistic credibility whatsoever. And Craig, we know that's been going on for a little while, right? But in the meantime, they've decided, you know what? We're going to go with, sensational lies here in our headlines, and that's what they've done. So let me give you what we've got here. The gentleman's name, the alleged sick man, is Robbie Walker. He says every breath he takes is almost the last one that he didn't take. Just a few weeks ago, Florida father of 6 was on a ventilator with COVID-19 pneumonia in both lungs. Like most Americans hospitalized with COVID-19, he was not vaccinated. And again, we know those numbers are now turning out to not be as so lopsided as being led to believe. He was in dire need of the ECMO treatment, Craig. That's the high pressure lung machine and heart bypass that it's normally used for. But all the beds had been taken up by COVID victims, and he couldn't get on one of those ventilators. Now, Craig, you and I have had this conversation many times here recently about the amount of ICU beds available in Florida. There are more ICU beds available in 2020 and 2021 in Florida than were available in 2019 pre-COVID. We didn't bring in any more beds, okay? The number of beds has stayed the same. We know For a fact, these are lies now. We know when you go look at a hospital's ICU bed count, that bed count has stayed the same or has increased. Craig, we went back and I saw some other news this past week. Remember the hospital ships? Craig, remember the hospital ships?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You remember how many people used the hospital ships in these? Remember, one was sent to Los Angeles and one was, I think it was Hope and Comfort. They were sent to Los Angeles and New York City. Do you recall how many people were utilized on these 1,000 ICU bed ships in New York and Los Angeles?
That would be nobody.
That'd be none. How about all of the mobile medical centers set up in the NFL stadiums and the baseball stadiums? Remember, they had Tent City set up and all of these places set up so you could have these ICU beds and the ventilators. Remember how many of those beds were used?
Oh, that would be none.
That'd be none. Okay, CNN again lying to you. All right, flat out lying to you, saying that this virus spreads like wildfire. That they had to go to 169 hospitals. Craig, there's not 169 hospitals in Florida. If you counted up all of the little dock in the box corner emergency clinics, you might get close to that number. But we don't have 169 ICU facilities in the state. I think we have about 20. Is the number, depending on with some of the private care institutions that you have out there. That is something that, again, I mean, it absolutely lying through their teeth here, that this gentleman couldn't get the treatment he needed. And again, the main cause is because he was unvaccinated. We know that's not true, Craig, because we know, listen, if you're vaccinated and I'm not vaccinated, that you're just as liable to die because I have to get vaccinated to save you. We watch the lies all day long. Remember, Craig, and I hate to harp on this, 2 weeks to flatten the curve because we need to save the ICU space and we need to save the ventilator space. Those numbers declined. That it went by half in many places. We had half of the number using beds in 19 as opposed to 20 and 21. I'm sorry, what do I mean by half? I mean we had twice as much bed space available. Okay, because half as few were being used with the ICU bed space. Just out and out lies. This guy had a pneumonia. They talked about a lung transplant. They couldn't get anybody to look at this. It's just full of lies. I kept scrolling down to the bottom looking to see, was this written on April 1st? What's going on here? I can't find this. So, Craig, I'm flabbergasted that they would print such a tale of lies, and yet there's no repercussions to them.
Well, okay. So there's a few things here that I'll point out. Number one, you're right. There are clearly not 169 medical facilities. There's no way they contacted 169 medical facilities. Now, maybe they contacted that many throughout the country to try and find a place where he could do ECMO, but not everybody does ECMO. And by the way, even if there were no COVID, we don't know how many individuals. I mean, the fact is ECMO is something that is used for a number of different things, not just COVID-19. In fact, one of the things that they failed to get into when they started talking about ICU beds is they say, well, all the ICU beds are full with COVID-19 patients. Well, that's just not true. Yes, there are probably more people in ICU beds than normal because they're there for COVID. But having said that, still the majority of most of these ICU beds are not COVID-19 patients. And they are just, so with that, they are just flat out lying. The other question is what did happen? I think, Mike, you bring up a great point. What happened with all of these additional beds and ventilators that supposedly we've had shipped all over the country that are now in existence? Why are these now not available in these quote unquote hotspots? I, by the way, Stu, do very, very much still believe that the majority of people who are in the hospital dealing with COVID because of COVID are unvaccinated. But there are still a significant number of people in the hospital who have COVID-19 because guess what? You're testing them. We already did a story where they demonstrated that in some cases up to 57% of the quote unquote COVID hospitalizations are people in the hospital with COVID, not because of COVID. Meaning they
Right.
showed up, they had a broken leg, they had a stomach ache or something like that. They got tested, and turns out they have COVID. They tested positive for COVID. That does not mean that they are there in the hospital because of COVID. This
Right.
is all part of a thing where, and you guys have seen this. They do story after story, anecdotal story, in order to encourage people to get the vaccine. And the thing they delight in the most is when someone who was unvaccinated or refused to get the vaccine, when they're the person who died. They want to flaunt that, and they want to dance all over the person's body because in their eyes, it's their way of getting you to get the vaccine. It's their way of convincing you, look, here's another unvaccinated person who didn't get the vaccine. What I also find interesting is they always make it a point to have it. It's always forgive me for injecting race into it, but it's always white people. In particular, if they can find an older white man, that's who they're going to demonstrate. That's who they're going to display. They're not showing the Latinos or black men and women, who, by the way, are the least likely. Latino men and African American men are amongst the most least likely to get the vaccine. But then they couldn't blame Donald Trump. That's the reason why they don't. That's the reason why they don't show them. Once again, I think that there are plenty of reasons that they can talk about to promote why you should get the vaccine. I don't know why they feel a need to sensationalize stories and lie.
You know, it's what they do. It's just how they get the viewers, how they continue to stoke the fear. You made mention a moment ago that it's the black man and the Hispanic man that are the least likely to get the vaccines, and we want to point out, because we had that story also. That's the government wants you to believe that that's because they're oppressed, they're poor, so we're trying to push it into their communities, so they can get it. When it's the opposite, that's true, Craig. The reason they don't get the vaccine is because they don't trust the government. Okay,
right.
Don't trust the government.
Right. No, you're right.
They've been lied to too many times, so they're not willing to put the needle in the arm, to take the jab. But yeah, this writer here for this story should just be. I mean, I wish we could prosecute for putting out this malfeasance of a story that this author's put out. This is just absolute lies. And this is the same time as regular media. Well, CNN used to be regular media, right? As the rest of the media is putting out how low a volume of the ICU beds are, or that are being used.
Right.
So,
well, exactly.
And these ECMO machines, let's be clear on this, these ECMO machines, they're a very special machine, but if you're in a hospital where they can do heart or lung surgery, these machines are there. So right. These are not like one per state or anything like that. Mm-hmm. They exist. They exist. So, well, let's roll right along, Craig. Let's get to some good news coming out of the state of West by God, Virginia, and we know that West by God, Virginia recently went to constitutional carry. All right. Now, Craig, we've seen this in many states. We got 20 of them now. About 14, 15 of them have been in place long enough to where we can track numbers. I look forward to seeing what Texas's numbers are in 6 months or so from now. But West Virginia now has had themselves constitutional carry. And Greg, guess what's happened? Guess what's happened now that we got constitutional carry?
Crime is down.
No, wait, Greg. But they told us there would be crime in the streets. We'd be shooting everybody in gas stations over parking spots.
Well, that's exactly what they said was there would be more shootings. So I'm flabbergasted that people aren't just out there shooting each other up. You would think.
Well, yeah, and Craig, but what about felons can carry guns no matter what? They can carry these guns.
Well, obviously. I mean, come on now. I mean, don't you know?
This is the big story.
More guns, more crime. Don't you know this?
Yep, we see this all the time, right? Well, if we have constitutional carry, how are we going to stop felons from carrying guns? I don't know. The same way you do now. All right, it's still illegal for them to carry a firearm. All right, it has nothing to do with the person not being allowed to carry a firearm. This is for lawful people that are allowed to carry their firearm can now do so without the added tax, without the added penalties from the state government to exercise their constitutional rights. Felons are still felons. Felons can't carry guns. All right. what this does, and there's people out there that have open carry. There's people out there that have concealed carry. A lot of constitutional carry go to open carry once constitutional carry comes out to show that they're exercising their right. I'm sorry, anything you hear that says constitutional carry gets you killed or murdered in line at the store is a lie. Is an absolute lie. There's been 5 instances in the past 10 years of open carry people being involved in a firearm crime, and that's because they took action rather than action was taken against them. Because when you open carry a firearm, it says to everybody around you, I'm not your target. You move along, nothing to see. Now, don't carry your gun bandito style in the butt crack of your pants. Make sure you wear a good holster, and you do all of that. And that's what's been going on in West Virginia. They've been open carrying now. Mm-hmm. They've been concealed carrying because open carry has always been legal there.
Right.
And concealed carrying. But now a constitutional carry, a license is not required for either. Right. So more guns are being carried. More people are seeing firearms. And the crime has gone down drastically.
Well, because, okay, so those who engage in crime are not necessarily the brightest folks in the world, but most of them don't want to die. And so they're not going to engage in crime or commit crime against someone who, in particular, who they know is armed or has the likelihood that they are armed has increased. Part of it is just plain out survival mode. Yeah, they'd like to take your stuff, but no, they don't want to get shot. So they're probably less likely to actually engage in crimes against your person because, well, they don't want to get shot. It's a deterrent, and that's really what it is. And that's the biggest advantage of constitutional carry is it increases the deterrent because now you're upping the stakes if someone decides that they want to commit a crime against you. And the great part about constitutional carry, about whether you're concealed carrying or whether about in particular with including concealed carry, is they don't know if you're carrying a gun. So there's not just the benefit of open carry, knowing that there are people around or you have a firearm to defend yourself. But even if you choose not to have a firearm, there's still an increased likelihood as the criminal sees it, that you may be armed. So therefore, even the person who chooses not to carry a firearm, they are more protected. But that doesn't seem to make any sense. And the other thing is, quite frankly, I find, and this is just me when I carry. I find that I am a lot less likely to get angry, perturbed, or get into an argument or a discussion. I'm much less likely to get into a conflict when I'm carrying than when I'm not, because I also know the stakes of any of those potential conflicts is much greater when I'm carrying. So I'm like, once again, it turns out that an armed society is in fact a polite society, at least for me.
It's interesting you say that. I don't think we've had that conversation before. See, I think for me, and at least what we instruct a lot of people is to avoid the situation armed just the same way you would avoid it unarmed. The wearing the firearm should not give you the Superman attitude in any way. So I really couldn't say that I respond the same way you do, because I just won't go into that place. If that place has the potential for conflict, I'm not going there whether I'm armed or unarmed. So maybe in that decision making process, we're the same there. Mm-hmm. So,
no. Like I said, I'm less likely to push things when I'm carrying. Like I said, because don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm out fighting in the streets when I don't. Like when I'm not carrying.
Like
I ain't got no guns, so it's on.
Russell Crowe fighting around the world. Yeah.
So no, it's not like that. But like I said, I do give it greater thought when I'm. I do think more about it when I'm carrying. Hey, you know what? Let's de-escalate this. There's no need to get into an argument with this person because, I don't. Not because I'm looking to get into a fight, but I never know who the other person is. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm a lot less likely to engage in disagreement with folks when I'm carrying, I guess is my point.
All right. We can go with that. It sounds good to me. So listen, I'm sure we'll see this in Texas as well. All the other states we've recently seen constitutional carry come about. They're on the bills in many states. So again, when you hear the cry of We can't have constitutional carry. It'll be blood on the streets. There'll be gunfights everywhere. It's all lies.
Well,
Everywhere.
a story that we didn't run with today, and let me just and this probably speaks to some of what we're dealing with. What's funny is now in Illinois, they found that most of the gun crime that they found in Illinois is actually individuals carrying firearms illegally, illegal possession of firearms in the city of Chicago, specifically by African-American men. So what they found is so in other words, in West Virginia, I'm guessing if those numbers were to correlate, then a big part of the reason that crime has gone down in West Virginia is because you're no longer charging black men in urban inner cities with illegal possession of a firearm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, but think about it, Mike. Mike, not just black men. I mean, just in general, and you and I have talked about this. In a lot of cases, illegal possession of a firearm. In other words, people, they don't want that person to have a firearm where they are, so that's now a crime. Most gun crime is that. Yeah.
No, while you were saying that, I'm sorry for I blanked on you for a moment. I was pulling up the Chicago gun statistics. September so far, shot and killed 56, shot and wounded 282, total shot 338, total homicide 60. That's here in the first 20 days of September. I was trying to see if it breaks it down, Craig, any further by type of gun crime, and you only dialogued for about 20 seconds, so I was not able to get there.
Okay,
but I got you that stats.
Well, but I guess my point is, think about the number of people that they are arresting or charging with possession of a firearm. It's much greater than even that.
And I'm not even sure that the Chicago Police Department are out there actively looking for people with firearms.
Oh no.
If they were, we'd see astronomical amounts of arrests. Because we know that felons are committing this crime. You just gave us the stats. Listen, we know that this is going on, but it's one of those cities where, Craig, remember who we got in charge there in this town. Her policy is to lean back, ease back, and let the people do their thing. And we're not going after the black person in Chicago, because then her policies would clearly be wrong and she'd be proven to be an idiot. So.
No. She who shall not be mentioned.
No, she shall not. She shall not be, because then we have to pull her picture up, and we don't want to do that.
We don't want to. We don't want.
She's scary.
She is scary. We do not want her on the show today.
She's scary. Yep.
But Craig, if I can just say something real quick, and this is why, like, when I talk to it's funny. People get mad at me sometimes. They're like, "Oh, well, why do you inject race into stuff?" The reason why I do it sometimes, Mike, is for this reason. Is because for some people, that's their thing. And if I'm trying to win them over to my side, I don't win them over to my side by arguing my thing. I win them over to my side by arguing their thing, and to show how they're wrong, to show how their thing applies over here. And so when I talk to people and then you start talking about like the war, they like to claim the war on drugs is all about an attack on black and brown people. Well, just so you guys know, the war on guns is the new war on drugs. In other words, I think those numbers from Chicago kind of show you, there's a lot of brothers a lot of guys who are being charged with crimes, who are being put in jail simply for exercising a fundamental right, which is the right to keep and bear arms. They either weren't supposed to own a firearm or weren't supposed to have a firearm where they were. Anyway, just so y'all know. Anyway, I will drop it at that.
I won't, though. I'll say that in Chicago so far, over the past this year during 2021, the victims have been 82.5% black, 13.5% Hispanic, and about 4% white. Right.
Meaning, and this is the thing, folks. People tend to birds of a feather. The birds of a feather flock together. People of certain races and cultures tend to be more likely to kill people who look like them. White people kill mostly white people. Black people kill mostly black people. Latinos kill mostly Latinos. So when you start talking about who are victims of of crimes involving firearms, you also have to realize that people from that very same community are likely the committers of that crime.
Yep, very good, very good. All right, we'll leave it there. Let's roll on to the first of our two updates from stories we've had. Craig, we talked about Carmine's on Broadway last week. I believe it was last week. We talked about it up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. There, this is the if you recall the restaurant where this past week and starting on the 13th in New York, you had to show your vaccine passport, as what they're calling it, on their local state app. You can get down on your phone. You put your vaccine status on there. And these three women, if I recall, it was about a 21, 22-year-old woman, her 41, 42-year-old mother, and then they had a 49-year-old friend with them, and they were all black women. They went to the restaurant. A kerfuffle, started. There was a fight outside with the hostess. There was a push and shoving kind of fight. We saw that. We saw them getting separated. Well, this week, the BLM movement up there has decided that they're going to cancel Carmine's with a protest out in front of Carmine's. Now, Craig, I saw this story and I said, okay, listen, this is a great update, and I want to feel out Craig on this and see where he is. And let's go. Let me get your opinion before we go into discussion mode.
I think it's stupid because, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, they were doing what they were told to do. If they wanted to be open, they had to ask people to show their vaccination cards. People had to prove that they were vaccinated. Right. I don't think restaurants should be put in a position to enforce state or local law. I don't think they should be put in a position where they're required to do this. So I think number one, I think that the mayor put this hostess in that particular position. There's something that was part of the original story that I haven't seen reported in subsequent stories, and that was that she basically the hostess said that whatever they were showing was a fake. Now I'm like this: if you show me proof that you've been vaccinated, right, it's not my job to be the authentication police. So I don't know that I would have done that.
Correct.
I don't know if she actually did that because I haven't seen them mention that in subsequent stories. And sometimes I think they don't mention it because, they want to make it seem like, these
it would change the outcome and your feeling of the story. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It would
be changing a key fact of the story. Yeah.
Right. And their whole goal here, quite frankly, is to make these three women the villains. Right? To make these three women who attacked this person, oh my God, they just attacked this poor innocent woman who did and said absolutely nothing. Now, I'm not saying that questioning their cards was reason to attack her, but it definitely it then, if that is in fact the case, then it lends some information as to why BLM felt a need to protest. But even then, I'm like this, folks, can we wake up to one thing here? Carmine's, it wasn't their decision to ask for the darn card. It wasn't their idea to have the vaccine passport. Talk to your mayor who decided that this is what we're going to require. I just think it's kind of funny because you've got two different issues. You've got the race issue, and you've got the COVID issue, and you've got small business, and you've got the black community attacking each other. In the meantime, the government is just sitting up there. Look what we got these people to do. Them and the media are making a big ruckus out of it. That's my perspective.
They're succeeded. De Blasio is succeeding, whether this was planned or not. And this is where I was going with it. Pretty much the same place you did. De Blasio has got those with fighting those without. Okay, he's got them fighting in the streets and not blaming the government. He's got them doing the work for him. He's got both. Listen, he's got BLM working for him right now. All right, the white mayor of New York City has BLM working for him because they're out there attacking restaurants that are not enforcing his policy. Let's say it. Because of like we talked about, the minorities are least likely to go get the vaccine. They're angry at themselves now. Is that what's going on? So we've got de Blasio has the minority group fighting against the majority color group, and at a restaurant for enforcing the mayor's policies. Somebody should just take the BLM and just Craig, I'll give you, for instance, when I worked with guard dogs, okay? Every once in a while, a guard dog would rush, you'd say attack, and the guard dog would rush the wrong target, and you'd grab it and pull it off and aim it towards the right target. It's like, that's like what we need to do to BLM right now. It's like, hey, listen, okay, you guys are going to go out and do your protest. Make sure it's a protest and not a riot. That's the first thing we ask. Stay civil, stay calm. But you're attacking the wrong target, all right? You need to be attacking this guy. They need to be over at the mayor's office. They all need to be at the mayor's office. The Restaurant Association that we had the statement from last week that says we're in an unfortunate spot, that we have to enforce this. BLM that's saying it's being enforced on us because we're a minority. The two of them need to be standing side by side in protest at the mayor's office.
Yep. Exactly. No, you're 100% correct. They ought to be standing side by side and protesting, saying, number one, let us open our business and run our business the best way that we see fit. And, stop. And then, stop creating or manifesting or manufacturing opportunities for us to not to bar our access to local businesses.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, this whole thing comes down to they were enforcing the mayor's mandates, and the people who should be to blame, the people they should be protesting, the people everyone should be mad at, well, they're not, and that's Mayor de Blasio and the politicians.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I wish I could go grab an umpire or a referee from one of the football games or baseball games and just put them there in the middle. And tell them what's going on. They need a mediator. All right, listen, folks. Here's what's going on. You're both angry, but you're not angry at each other. You're angry at that guy over there. You're
he started this
over there. Yeah. Now, listen. The mayor's house and City Hall is way down on the south end of Manhattan. So maybe they just they all didn't want to travel down there from the Upper West Side. So maybe they'll hop a bus or do an Uber or something together. We'll find out. All right, this last story, not the parting shot, but the last story. This, Craig, is the 2021 story that just keeps on giving. This story just gives and gives and gives. We're into the second year of this story now. God bless the McCloskeys and their newfound Second Amendment stance. We've always known that they were conservatives. We always knew that they were firearms owners, but now they've become firearms advocates as well, Second Amendment advocates. Folks, I'll give you the 30-second rundown on the McCloskeys. These were the wife there, Mark and Patricia, and husband and wife, attorneys in Missouri. The BLM rally, protesters that broke through their gates of their neighborhood, came down their street because they thought the mayor lived there and the mayor did not. They brought out some firearms, kept people off their property. Got charged with the misdemeanors by the city, by the county. Were convicted of a couple of minor misdemeanors, $750 fine, one at a $2,200 fine. The governor came back and said, crimes are pardoned, give back the fines, give back the guns. And then Mr. McCloskey, Mark, says, I'm running for Senate because the other senator is retiring. So that's the last place we have them, right? Well, but wait, there's more. The chief of judicial or attorney behavior, or whatever the heck the name of their attorney review is his name is Alan Pratzel. He's decided that just because Mark McCloskey and Patricia McCloskey were pardoned for the misdemeanor crimes, that doesn't mean they're still not guilty of them. And he's moving forward to have their law licenses suspended.
If this is not, what's the word I'm looking for? Retribution, revenge, whatever you want to call it, then I don't know what is. This is simply, I don't like their politics, and therefore I'm going to attack them. I don't see how any board decides that they're going to take their law license. They're especially, quite frankly, in Georgia. In Missouri, especially in Missouri. I just don't see that happening. But this is nothing but political retribution, plain and simple. And I think, if anything, if he moves forward with this, someone needs to look at removing his law license.
I did the deep dive on this, Craig. It probably took me a better part of an hour to find the information I needed to find to substantiate what you just said. This attorney, Alan Pratzel's been an attorney for 27 years. Started off a little bit of part-time, was asked to help with the local county of judicial review for the attorneys. It's attorney ethical review is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it started, he was doing it as a second hobby. Now it's his full-time gig for the state, for the city, for the county. He actually does it for many different jurisdictions, but he was appointed to that position in 2007 by the state Supreme Court, which was the Democrat-controlled state Supreme Court, controlled by Democrat Governor Jay Nixon. This was a purely political partisan appointment by the Democrats for liberal Mr. Alan Pratzel, attorney Alan Pratzel.
I'm shocked. I tell you, I am shocked to hear that there is partisanship in this decision.
I'll tell you what, because they probably took a little time, because everything I looked at with his name, including old interviews and his reviews at the two colleges as an adjunct at, had been scrubbed of anything like that. Yeah. It was only going back until you could find who was on the court when the actual appointments were made to find this out. And just finding out the exact date of that appointment was a rather a monumental task as well. So, this is a partisan attack on him. Now, Craig, I want to say this. If I had to get down and dirty with technicalities, all right, both Mark and Patricia both admitted to these crimes, but here's what they said. Remember, the crime was exhibiting a weapon, improper exhibition of a weapon. And he said, "Oh, I did that. It wasn't improper, but I did it, and I would do it again tomorrow."
Right.
Pratzel has said that, well, that's an admission of guilt with no remorse. Therefore, he cannot maintain his law license. Even though the governor came back and said, "I find that it's not a guilty, or a problem with him being the attorney." So that could get done. The only saving grace in this is if they do get their law licenses pulled, the state Supreme Court has the authority to say yes or no. And the state Supreme Court right now is the Republican state Supreme Court under the same governor that just provided the pardon to the McCloskeys.
Gee, which way do you think that one's going to go?
Yeah. This is this. You know what this says to me? Pratzel's getting ready to run for office.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
It does kind of lend itself towards that.
I bet you within the next 6 months we find out he's running for a district attorney or something like that out there.
Would not surprise me one bit, sir. Would not surprise me one bit.
Yeah. Well, we support for the McCloskeys and for Mark in his Senate run. I'm sure he's going to get it there out of Missouri. So that'll be nice to have another. We already have a Republican senator from Missouri, but it'll be nice to have a nice pro-Second Amendment, clearly pro-Second Amendment, senator from Missouri. So, Craig, listen, we're going to move down here into the parting shot, and we've hit on COVID. Started the day with COVID, and we talked about gun sales this week. We talked about gun sales with women. Firearm sales are still going strong. We're not setting record levels now. We're in the normal. We call it the summer slowdown for gun sales, because during the summer people go out and they're doing their family vacations, other activities, and so we see the slowdown of firearm sales until it picks back up around Thanksgiving time, holiday time, when hunting season and the gift season comes around, rolls back through. We start to see the IRS checks come back, people buy more firearms, then we get back into the slump. So for those that are not in the gun business, the colder months are the gun months, the summer months are the slower months. But we do know that people are continuing to buy firearms, and in this parting shot, maybe even putting a few on layaway.
Uh-oh. I picked the wrong one, bruh.
What?
Hold on.
All right.
See, now
that's okay.
Now I got to go get that one. Hold on.
No, wait, I can re-intro it. We're good.
All right, re-intro. Yeah, I picked the wrong one. My apologies.
Okay, all right. So we'll save that intro for tomorrow. So we talked about the COVID, right, Craig? And we talked about how the vaccination rate out there. Listen, when it was first reported, remember, everybody in the hospital with the COVID was 112% of people that hadn't been vaccinated. It was some ridiculous number. It wasn't true. It wasn't real. We're seeing now vaccination rate numbers come down. We're knowing the vaccination rates are only running, depending on which one, between mid-30s to mid-50s of effectiveness. We know that The vaccination is not the save-all, be-all. It's just like a flu vaccine, right? How many people do you know got a flu vaccine and still got the flu, right? So we know that the vaccination numbers are not as great as they were. We know now, listen, again, CDC keeps coming out, President keeps coming out, says, you got to get your vaccination, because if you don't get your vaccination, my vaccination doesn't work. So, Craig, there's people sitting out there with no vaccinations and no masks. How are these people still alive?
Mike, I had no idea that you were, this literally looks like you with longer hair, maybe on a military weekend, just kind of hanging out in your backyard.
I don't have a mask. I haven't been vaccinated. I'm just waiting to die. Craig, I've been told since March of last year that I'm going to die. I'm going to die. You don't have a vaccination. You don't wear a mask. You're going to die. Yeah.
Well, Mike,
I haven't had a sniffle since then.
Well, you know what? It's like you said. It's like, look, you know what? Let people make decisions for themselves and stop feeling like you need to babysit everybody. Give people the information. Let them make decisions for themselves. And oh, by the way, I didn't want to waste that phenomenal intro. I actually did get the picture. I did get the picture. Yeah. So there we go. when the store clerk says, "Wow, this is the 7th gun you've put on layaway this month," in front of your wife. Yeah. No. First of all, let's just say this: if you got your wife to go to the gun store with you, that's a 2 thumbs up. But then that was my first instinct. Then my second instinct was, well, it depends on what state you're in, because in some places you just walk into a Walmart and buy your guns. So actually, Walmart's still selling guns in certain states.
Nope, they stopped.
Well, there you go.
There was a national policy. Walmart got rid of it. Yep. Handguns anyway. There might be some states still selling some hunting rifles and shotguns, but they got rid of all things tactical and all handguns. And all handgun ammunition, they got rid of. But
I've just come to a realization. First of all, I don't buy my ammo or my firearms accessories from the big box stores. I try to get everything from the individual FFLs, because I'm like, they're the ones who are actually supporting the Second Amendment, not the big box store. So don't give them your money. Don't give them your gun money.
Let me say this: do you know why your wife doesn't take you shopping when she buys shoes?
Because she doesn't want me to know how much she actually spent on shoes.
Exactly right. That's why you don't take your wife gun shopping with you. Now you can, because gun guys will do this for you. You could walk in there to the gun store and have it be your second trip in there, and they come out and they go, "Here you go, Mr. DeLuz. Here's that $250 Glock you ordered." Oh, thank you for my $250 Glock with my $250 receipt. Then you could tell her about how much money you saved her. I just saved you $300 buying that gun. You know that, right? Yeah.
You're getting you're getting a lot of guys in trouble if their wives are listening to this, right?
Yep. Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Hey man, give a shout out to our sponsor, sir.
Yes, let's say hello to Gorilla Machining and Grid Defense. Gorilla Machining and Grid Defense, great sponsors. Make sure you visit their website, say hi to them, and tell them the guys from the Rundown sent you.
There you go. Also want to encourage y'all, please make sure visit the California Republican Assembly. If you're in California, make sure you visit CRA. CRA is the largest and the oldest and the fastest growing, by the way, conservative organization in the state of California, fighting for your fundamental rights and freedoms, working to elect like-minded conservatives, as Ronald Reagan called them, the conscience of the Republican Party. Make sure you visit the California Republican Assembly. That's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate y'all tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and telling your friends about the Rundown, the place to find 2A news and conservative views.
Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you all back here real soon.